Hello, everybody. I'm Patty Patane. Meet the power of intelligent conversation.
Sorry. Now, there's nothing here except my fingers. And see the little red light? This is a toy, but what it demonstrates is, particularly to a young student in school, it demonstrates electricity. And that's what we as human beings are. We're electric in nature. Look at this. Oh, how cool. Wouldn't you like your kid to have one of these? I'm going to look for a bunch of them, see if we can give them away. Okay, so this is part of today. And this, it's an extension cord. You probably think it's a pretty, it's an extension cord. Do you realize that extension cords, just like this, are one of the biggest reasons that homes burn down? Okay. Now, this is an on-off switch. It doesn't have all the stuff that goes in the wall yet, and the wires come out of the back. So off and on. We all pretty much take this action for granted. Off, on, lights. It takes more than just, I think I'll go get a job and become an electrician. If you do it right, this is only the beginning of what you study. When you do it right and become the safest possible professional craftsman in electricity you could ever be. This is quite a book. Other power limited control power sources. Good thing I didn't try out for this. This happens to be the National Electric Code book. When a building is built, if it's not built to these specifications with the electrical in it, well, if it's a home, I wouldn't want to live in it. So what this signifies here is that, in my personal opinion, since I went to high school, and it was a bit ago, I wanted to do something when the recruiters came around, particularly for the services, the Army, the Navy, the stuff like that. The Air Force was at our high school in Palm Springs when I was graduating, and they were asking people to come and join the Air Force. And I went up to the desk, and of course, here I am, right? They said, what would you like to be? And I said, I want to be a pilot. I want to be a jet pilot. And they said, well, we don't do that. You're a girl. Well, times have changed. Thank you. But I have a private pilot's license. And any student that wants to, within the Coachella Valley Unified School District, beginning in the year 2015, 16, and thereon, will have an opportunity to not only know why this does this with just my fingers, and why this works, and why this can be so dangerous, and what all of this means. And if you want, not only get to get a private pilot's license, but you can be in aviation in any field. You can park the planes on the tarmac at the airport. Now, why is this different? Well, I'll tell you why it's different. And the Coachella Valley Unified School District is leading the way in what they are calling career pathways, what people who remember what it used to be called vocational education, auto shop, wood shop, home economics, took that. So times have changed, let's admit it. They let that go in the school districts. They let that go for some 20 plus years. Now, where are we going with that? Well, in my humble opinion, what that has amounted to is a 40% drop off in college dropout rates. I mean, they're dropping out of college at 40% a pop. And why is that? Well, because maybe the whole direction we've been going with college-driven education in public schools is everybody wasn't meant to go to college. Gee, the light went on. And you have college graduates walking around today, maybe they're making 20 bucks an hour. And some of them really are asking if you would like fries with that. So I am so pleased to be here today at the Coachella Valley Unified School District. I'm basically in Coachella, Thermal, they're right across the street. And this district has been here for decades. It's one of the oldest. And they are making a change. And I have always believed that trades, electrician, auto mechanic, plumber, any of the building trades that we need are just as important as the professions we call doctors and lawyers and CPAs and engineers and astronauts. I mean, I really want my doctor to have gone to a university and spent thousands of hours learning to be the best he can be. But now the students here at Coachella Valley Unified School District have the opportunity to be the best that they can be in any profession they choose, and it's all about choice now. And I have a lady here. Her name is Maria Perotti. And your description of your job is, obviously you went to college because you get to do this, right?
Correct.
Okay. Well, in spite of my pilot's license and my little gadget here, wouldn't the kids love this?
They would adore that,
Okay,
yes.
I'm going to get some, all right? What are you doing with Dr. Adams? He's the one that really is pushing all this. What do you do to get us to think that this is really terrific?
Well, we do a lot of things here in Coachella Valley Unified. First and foremost, we do have what's called a wall-to-wall academy initiative.
What does wall-to-wall mean?
Wall-to-wall means that over the next, I'd say 5 to 8 years, all students will have career exploration in the 8th and 9th grade, which will allow them to see what they're good at and allow them to explore what their interests are.
You use a lot of language that is really part of your educational profession, okay? What you just said was kids are getting an opportunity in their classrooms to be exposed to things
Yes.
outside of being a doctor, a lawyer, a book, a math, or all this stuff. You get to relate directly to, I think I'd like to be an electrician. And as a result of wanting to do that, you're going to have to learn math.
Correct.
So do you put point A with point B? In other words, you give them, what is the term you use? You give them a purpose to learn the math and the rest of it?
It's real world relevant experience, using academics and marrying that with what are they going to do with that in the real world. It's taking those two things together, and that makes a career academy. And that's what we're doing here at CVUSD.
And how's it going?
It's going quite well. We've already had 4 career academies in existence, and they are at Coachella Valley High School. They are so successful, they have higher graduation rates. 95% of the students who graduate from a career academy versus 80% from non-academy students.
I read that someplace. And in fact, I read it as, I know you've upped it a little bit, correct me if I'm wrong, I want to be very accurate here. I read that your graduation rate among the average student body was 78 point something percent.
Somewhere around there.
Somewhere around there. So you're looking at, let's say, 78%. But when they go into a career pathway, it goes from 78% to 95%. Now, what is that telling everybody here?
It gives students a focus. It gives them a reason to want to come to school. It gives students a connectedness to their school. There's decreased dropout rates. And I think it's important, there's a difference between a pathway and an academy. And I think that it's important to explain the difference.
The airplane in association with the Jacqueline Cochran, here's a new word. I thought it was just going to be the Jacqueline Cochran Museum, but help me out here, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Jacqueline Cochran Discovery of Flight and Education Center.
Yes.
And it's going to be over here at the Thermal Airport.
Correct.
So this aviation academy is in fact an academy. And what's that? I mean, besides it's a classroom they go to when they get to learn how engines work and how airplanes fly, and they might end up with one of these.
The difference is this. When students are part of an academy, let's say first period is their aviation, intro to history and careers in aviation, okay? Second period, those same 30 students now go to their math class together, their English class together, their science class together, and their math, English, and science teachers are collaborating with the aviation teacher, and they're doing cross collaboration and assignments, so it's all relevant
The left
to what
hand
they're,
knows what the right hand is
Correct.
doing, so when the child is asked to do the math that is someplace in this, I did skim through this book and it just gave me a headache because it has all this math in it. But it's not really terribly advanced math, it's a couple of years of, I think, algebra.
I think it is algebra.
Yeah, and so you're going to have a electrical career pathway or an electrical academy, because you're going to have an aviation academy, but what kind of an electrical?
It would probably be built in. We haven't done this yet.
Okay.
So what we would probably need to do is look at, okay, well, what are the other foundational skills students need before just becoming an electrician? So maybe it's intro to building and construction trades. So that would be the first course that they took. And then in their second year, then maybe it would be applied math for, you know, electronics. I don't know how we're going to build this one yet, but we're going to build it.
So it's your job, along with your staff and Dr. Adams, to figure out what is the best possible way to take all of these new things that are available to you
Absolutely.
and make it work for the children of this district.
Absolutely, and it's also important to note, we bring industry in to advise us. We don't do this on our own. We're not the experts. There's no way. What we do is we'll build an advisory board and we'll say, what is it students need to know by grade level? What do we need to build into these course outlines? All career technical education is driven by industry and advisory boards, not people who have educational degrees.
So
It's by industry.
you've really made a huge difference here. I mean, it's one thing, your teachers are to be highly respected.
Absolutely.
I personally, as everyone knows, I happen to have an opinion on a few things. First and foremost, I don't think we show the teachers of our children enough respect. I do not believe that the teachers are the first ones to be believed when a student says, my teacher did such and such. We have a little issue here, and that's a program I'm going to do at a later date. Teachers need more respect from the students, and I might add from the parents. If my mom and dad were called into the school, which happened on more than one occasion, and said that your daughter did such and such, my mother didn't sit there and argue with the principal or the teacher and say, well, no, she didn't, it was your fault, the teacher's fault, or it's the school's fault. No, 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 no. It was my fault, and I was informed that it was my fault because we played takeaway. I did not get to keep certain privileges. And I think we've lost that a little bit. So I am so delighted that you have professional electricians, professional aviators, professional, what's the other career pathways you have here?
We have health careers, we have hospitality, we have green technologies.
Solar and all
yes,
that stuff. That's, by the way, that's all part of what, and I believe the organization that you met with that's going to be introducing with the electrical apprenticeship type program is NECA, the National Electrical Contractors Association, along with the labor division of IBEW. Will you be asking them to help you set up the direction that you're?
Oh, absolutely, they will be involved.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So when you have hospitality, you have waiters, and you have restaurant managers, and you have chefs, and you have cooks.
And our students job shadow at local hotels.
That means they go on the job and actually watch, and do they actually get to do it, or they simply, what you call, shadow it? They walk around and watch.
In this case, they're actually doing it, and it's
Oh,
a
how
really
cool.
unique experience for the students because they are actually interviewed, they have to fill out an application, and they have to have a cover letter and a resume. And hotel staff comes in and they interview them and they place them throughout the hotel based on what their interests are, but how well they interviewed.
When they're shadowing, do they get paid as an apprenticeship?
No.
Part of the
No,
on-the-job
it's-
training?
No, this is
Okay.
part of their school day.
Okay, very good.
This is part of their school day.
Now, when it comes to Do you find yourself overwhelmed at times? I mean, when you have so many new opportunities today, it's not as though you don't have a whole lot of professions looking to come in and be part of this. They want to help you. Business wants to help you. Are you finding this unusual for corporate America and for small and large businesses to want to go hand in hand with you in helping these students have a better life?
No, I don't find that overwhelming, and I do understand where it's coming from. Industry has realized that students that even do go off to college, whether they drop out or get that degree, they come out, they're not ready for the world of work. College has prepared them with knowledge, but it has not prepared them with how to be a good employee.
It's
huge.
Life has been left out of the equation.
It really has been. They've identified what's called 21st century skills that students need to have. Whether you graduate with just a high school diploma, go on for a couple years, 4 years, master's degree, doesn't matter. The big four are critical thinking.
So critical thinking, basically you have to know how to think.
Yeah, you have to
solve a problem.
And solve a problem.
Okay, got it.
Communication.
That means you and I have to be able to carry on an intelligent conversation.
And you have to know the appropriate mode of communication.
What does that mean?
Well, students like to text. How would you like to be
no.
texted?
No.
Someone texts and says, "I'm not coming in today." Is that appropriate?
No. You know what happened the other day? I text, okay? I do. I text, but I try to text very little because it's rude. Maybe that's the wrong word, Marie. What do you think it is?
I think it has to be appropriate for the type of conversation you're having. And if texting between a couple of people, friends, to say, hey, I'm running a few minutes late, that's an appropriate way to use a text. Right. We need to teach students that in the workplace, texting's not really appropriate.
And email is just as inappropriate. You have to pick up the phone. This is the phone part.
Yes.
You pick it up and you call your employer and you say,
I'm not coming in today, or there is a problem. I need to discuss something with you. I need to make an appointment with you. Sometimes email can be appropriate too,
right?
Especially if you have a boss who's maybe traveling and that's the best way to get a hold of them at that time. But it's teaching students what the appropriate communication mode is. The next one after that is collaboration. They have to know how to work well with others and in teams. Academies do that, so they're staying together with that group of 30 for the whole school year.
Really?
And then if they go to the next grade level, they're going to be with the same students again. So they're learning how to work well with others and get along and form teams. And then the last one is how to be creative in your job. Think outside of the box.
You mean they're asking people to do that today?
They are. So those are the 4 big C's of 21st century skills.
Okay, repeat them one more time.
Okay, so critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity.
Well, asking kids to think outside the box, as we say it. I know that I never really recognized the box.
The box, okay.
I didn't get it. I was just one of those kids that just didn't get it. I did not do particularly well in school. After 6 months of a full ride scholarship to a private college, I was asked to leave.
Oh my.
Oh no. Hey, there were rules.
There were rules.
I didn't do rules. However, I do understand the need for them. I do understand how do you take a child who has a vision and a dream and a creative capability and ask them to follow certain life rules and at the same time teach them that there is freedom outside of this life rule box. When you have a student, let's say like me,
okay,
not exactly, I think I would have been called, labeled like a AD. I never settled. You know, there was probably a whole bunch of alphabet soup names they could have given me, but thankfully they did not. So today, you know, some 40 years later, I am thrilled that I didn't know the limits of the box. But yet I learned from my parents, there are rules, there is thank you, yes ma'am, no, you know, there are rules, there are courtesies.
Mm-hmm.
And are you trying to teach both of those now with allowing them outside of this proper life lesson box?
Absolutely. And there's two things that I want to say. First of all, students who are involved in career technical education, and this comes from the California Department of Education, they have reduced behavioral problems in the classroom because they're not rigid rules about turn to page 78, do every other problem on the page, drop it in my box. They're doing hands-on activities. So CTE connects kids in a way that traditional academics does not. So we have less behavioral problems in general.
Really?
Now, really, absolutely.
Now, would a connecting with hands-on behavior be something like this? Huh?
Absolutely. Putting something in the hands of students so that they can see how something...
And this?
Yes, absolutely. That they can touch and they can feel and they can do things with.
Or make a salad?
My daughter teaches culinary arts. Absolutely. She says her best lesson was when she had them identify lettuces. They had to properly identify and then come up with 3 different recipes using at least 3 of the different lettuces.
So you got butter, red tip, and romaine.
Absolutely.
And they're teaching this.
Yes.
Oh, how
they are.
cool.
They
How
are.
absolutely cool.
Absolutely. Now, that's not in our particular district. My daughter teaches outside of this district. We do have culinary in the Valley, okay? We teach hospitality, which is more the customer service angle of the resorts. And again, we tie into industry and workforce development with all the resorts because we are a resort valley.
We have a lot of resorts here.
We do.
We have a lot of opportunities for health care, for
Absolutely.
therapies and nurses and doctors and the whole...
Agriculture, yes, and green technologies and solar and...
So what you're trying to do is keep the kid here. You don't want the brain drain after you've done all of this to teach all of your students the best you possibly can. You don't want them leaving. You want them staying in the community and contributing.
You know, I would never say that I want them to stay. Let me put it to you in a different
Okay.
fashion. The students that we have in our district, they don't want to move away from family. Family is very important to them.
Yes.
And so we need to make sure we're aligning to workforce development so that if they do go off to college and come back, because even though this is career tech ed, some college is still necessary in some cases.
Well, a very good example of that is Dr. Raul Ruiz, our congressman. His family worked the fields in here in the Coachella East Valley, and he went on to Harvard, got his medical degree as an emergency room physician,
Yes.
and has now become our congressman from our region.
Absolutely.
So, and then of course there's the same student that went to school with Dr. Ruiz, who is our auto mechanic. And Dr. Ruiz could not get to work if it wasn't for the auto mechanic that knew how to
Absolutely.
fix his car. It's a balance.
It is a balance.
Do you have fun doing this?
I have a blast doing this, and you know, I am a product of career technical education myself.
Example?
When I left high school, I went to the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising, which is just a 2-year technical trade school. This is back in the 80s. And I got my little AA degree, and I survived on that AA degree making a very nice salary for about 20 years. I was an accessory and shoe buyer for a specialty retailer. I worked in the corporate offices. I crossed over into education almost 10 years ago. I started teaching fashion
Why?
and retail merchandising.
Why? I mean, you're making big bucks. You obviously, I bet you were traveling. I bet you had an expense account.
It made sense for what I needed to do in the next chapter of my life. And I think what's really interesting about it is a lot of industry folks don't know that you can obtain what's called a career technical education teaching credential to teach in K-12. That is what I did. Then once I got into the mix of education, I realized, wow, I want to further my education. Then I got a bachelor's in business, and I just finished a master's in educational leadership. And I think why that's important is because you don't know where you're going to end up in life, and we know that statistics today show that our students in the K-12 system today will probably work in multiple industry sectors and have multiple jobs. We have to give them transferable skills. So even if they learn about aviation, how does that apply within transportation, or how does that apply to other fields? They're going to take what they learn, and it can be moved into another industry.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So really, you and the staff here at Coachella Valley Unified School District and Dr. Adams Are you, in a way, pioneering a lot of this today? I mean, I haven't, my pilot's license. I got this on my own years ago. What I know of turning the light on and off, turning the light on and off. But the kids coming out today, the young adults that are going to be the professionals, the electricians, the plumbers, the pipe fitters, the people who will build our homes and our entertainment facilities and our places of worship. You're going to see to it that they're really just about the best generation they could ever be.
Absolutely, and that's what it's all about. It's making sure the students have all the opportunities available to them so that they can become globally competitive. They're competing against the world now with technology. They're not just competing here in the Valley, they're competing against the world.
Dr. Adams, you started as a school teacher,
Yes.
you're a classroom teacher. What did you teach?
Well, I was a music teacher, and I started back in the LA Unified School District.
Music.
Music.
And now you're the superintendent of the Coachella Valley Unified School District.
Yes, yes.
How did you decide to travel from a music teacher to a superintendent? Just your love of education?
Yeah, just, really, I've always wanted to help in a leadership position. Even as a musician, band director, you're kind of in the lead. But I, wanted to go into administration so I could help, change school culture where everyone was involved in collaborating. And so as I went up the ranks to assistant principal, assistant super, now superintendent, I've been able to see that come to fruition. And it's a beautiful thing to see people working so close together in collaboration.
I understand that for the last 50 years, including the building we're in right now, your district has been, for the most part, in a lot of the schools, and particularly here at the headquarters for the school district, you've been in temporary, what they call temporary housing facilities.
Yes, yes.
A bunch of trailers, basically. And the future is right out the door here.
Yes, yes.
You are building a large,
We call it our District Education Community Support Center. And it
Sports.
Support Center.
support center.
Support center.
So
yes.
the first time I heard it, I thought it was sports.
Yeah, no.
It's support center.
Support center, yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, yes.
I mean, sports are important,
Yeah,
but so is it big?
Yeah, basically we're going to have about 40,000 square feet. But most importantly, we're going to have our bus transportation department on this campus instead of on the Coachella Valley High School campus, where it's very dangerous with kids walking and with the pollution issues. So we're going to have that over here. Plus, some of our staff was out exposed to the weather and really terrible conditions.
You're basically coming of age.
Yes, we are.
And this is under your direction.
Yes. Well, the rest of the board and the community, we all work together on this. My job is to make sure we have a large, big vision and what's good for the kids, what's good for the community, and make sure everyone's on board so we all can make it happen. So, and that's been very, very, it's been a great time for me, and to see them building that new Community District Education Support Center, and the community is going to be very, very proud of it, because we can't have a board meeting unless people are standing outside. And you go to other districts, Desert Sands or Palm Springs or anywhere, they have a nice facility that's representative of the community, and this community deserves the same. And so we're happy to get that project underway and looking forward to its finish.